All right, live here on Facebook, episode 2 of X's and O's, or as we might be calling it this evening, X's and Lows, as Alex Lowe is our second guest of all time, the head coach and director of hockey operations for the Adirondack Thunder. Of course, Riley Armstrong, Mariners head coach and assistant general manager, as always. And guys, with the NHL in full swing, it definitely feels like hockey season. We know that a lot of our friends throughout the ECHL have been playing for weeks now, but it's got to feel good to have hockey on television every night to watch. Riles, I know that's something that you love to do.
Yeah, I've actually been brainwashing my kids now, telling me what time games are on, who's playing against each other. So it's really working their minds, I think. With only going to school two days a week, it's just another opportunity to teach the kids a couple important concepts of who's playing who, the time that the game's on, and I think next I'm going to get into who's the starting goaltender here coming up soon. So it's just awesome. I absolutely love watching games every night. My wife doesn't, but I love when 11 games are on, just like tonight. Unbelievable. Let's go.
And Alex, are you following the Devils closely, or is there another team you're watching?
No, I definitely keep an eye on the Devils. They've been great to us. They've been a great affiliate for the past handful of years here. We've actually used them since the beginning of our relationship, our time in Adirondack. So certainly keep an eye on those guys. Have a former Thunder player in Mackenzie Blackwood, who's been playing pretty well so far. We got sidelined with some COVID stuff for the last couple of games, but even then, Scott Wedgwood's jumped right in, who has actually played a game with us a couple of years ago. So keep an eye on the Devils. I just look for a good game. I think there's lots of good matchups every night. You can learn something from every team. You can be excited by players on every team. It's just a lot of fun to be able to watch hockey again. I think Riley, your wife, and my wife might be on the same page. I think she's that the NHL is back on, but I'm certainly excited, and it's great to be able to flip on a game every night.
It's funny you mentioned the goalies, which some of the best ECHL alumni to play in the NHL were goaltenders. And Riles, you and I had a conversation last week about how this is actually one of the best times to be a goalie, because everybody needs 3 goaltenders between their roster and their taxi squad. And if you're a goaltender, you're always one COVID case or one injury away from potentially being on an NHL roster. So, expand on that a little bit for how maybe there's never been a better time to be a goalie in pro hockey.
Yeah, I think that's like the one knock, right? When you're trying out for a team, whether you want to be a goalie or a defenseman or a forward, yeah, you got to bank on the forward spot, because, they're probably going to carry 12 to 15 guys. So your chances of making the team are a lot higher compared to being a D or a goalie where you're only getting 2. But I think in the past, and I think that we've seen a lot at ECHL level, is NHL teams and American League teams are now signing 6 goalies to almost feed them all the way down. And Alex can probably talk on a little bit from last year, but we went in to play you guys a couple of times, and you had no goalies. And I think that's where it's, you get a couple call-ups, or a guy's hurt and then a call-up. And it can happen with the amount of games we play Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the 4s and 5s, the 3 and 3s. You could be scrambling pretty quick to try and find a goalie to come in and backstop your team. So I think right now, I think a lot of the goalies are in a good spot. You see a lot of guys, Connor Lecouve just coming back right now from Europe, signing in Tucson. Guys like that, they're starting to come back from Europe now and jumping on those types of teams.
Alex, you had a goaltender, I think, come from the Federal League last year, right? So that kind of exemplifies that point.
I don't know if we did quite that low. I think we did have Joe Murdaka came in and played against Riles a couple times, and you guys. He was coming from the SPHL, but yeah, it's just like Riley said. I mean, it's one of those things where you just don't know. We had 6 goalies throughout the organization in New Jersey, and one weekend I got a call Wednesday morning that they were calling up both their guys, and they needed it both in Binghamton. And so I was on the phones for Wednesday afternoon, didn't get a guy until Thursday afternoon. The first time I actually saw a guy play was in warm-ups against Riley that night, and he did well. I mean, I'm not sure if we came out on the right side of the scoreboard, but I mean, he certainly kept us in the game. I think we got into overtime in both games, if I remember correctly. But yeah, it's one of those things that goaltenders, they're never far away from the top. McKenzie is a perfect example there. He came and played some at the end of the season 2 years ago in a little bit of playoffs, and then unfortunately he got injured. But then that following season, he was in the NHL. And now he's a full-time NHLer and looks spectacular in that league. I'm not surprised, to be honest. His athleticism and everything that he showed was pretty outstanding. So it doesn't come as a shock, but I think it goes to show how close those guys are really to being at the top.
Before we go any further here on X's and O's, want to just kind of lay out the agenda here for episode number 2. And again, thanks to everybody for tuning in. And please, if you're watching, share the stream on your Facebook page. We're going to give away prizes throughout the show, and we're going to pick one lucky fan who shares the stream to their friends to win a prize. So share that. Also hit that like button and let your friends know that we are streaming live here. We'll go for about an hour. Last episode, we went a little bit over the hour as we had a lot of good conversation with Kirk McDonald of the Reading Royals. But in a little bit, we're going to get into Alex's previous time in Maine, as he was a video coach for 3 seasons for the Portland Pirates, also an assistant coach for Colby College. We're going to talk a little bit about a big topic fans have been very interested in lately, where our players and Adirondack players are playing this season. Yesterday, most AHL teams announcing their training camp roster, and a number of Mariners players on the Hartford roster, as well as a few, Riley already mentioned, Connor LeCouve on Tucson. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. And we'll also talk about the inaugural game in which both of these men made their ECHL head coaching debuts in October of 2018, which feels like forever ago. But by the time we hit the ice again, we might be having some of those same butterflies going through after this long hiatus. We'll get into the tail of the tape. We'll get into our video breakdowns, and then we'll finish up the show by talking about some of the topics going around the NHL, as we are about 2.5 weeks into the 2021 NHL season, and there's already been a lot to talk about. Well, Alex, let's start with a little bit of your background. But before we get to the Portland connections, you've been with Adirondack for quite a while, since the 2015-16 season, serving as an assistant under Cale McLean and then Brad Tapper. You were also an associate coach in that span. And when I saw that, my first question was what I think a lot of the fans want to know: what is an associate coach exactly? Because you hear assistant coach, you hear associate head coach, and a lot of times it's hard to identify the difference between those two things. So when you were associate coach, what were your duties?
I mean, they weren't a whole lot different, to be honest. I think it's just an acknowledgement of time served to a certain degree. I think when you first come in, it's an assistant coach. You're putting in your time, you're learning and everything like that. And then as you get into it a little bit further and you've spent a little bit more time in the league and in an organization, they reward you a little bit of a title bump. So I think that's where that came from. I spent 2 years as the assistant with Cale. I interviewed for the head coaching position at the time before Brad got it. And to be honest, I'm actually thrilled that Brad got it ahead of me, because I learned a lot from Brad. I learned a lot that year to apply to the last couple seasons. So I think in that the ownership group and the board saw that there's a possibility of me becoming head coach in the future. I don't know if they saw it happen as quickly as it did, but I think that's sort of where it came from, is that associate head coach kind of showed that I was moving in the right direction, that it wasn't only an assistant thing for me, that one day that I could possibly be the head coach. And I've been lucky enough, and I was thankful, obviously, that they chose me a couple of years ago. But that's sort of where that title had come from, is that I was the assistant with Cale, and with Brad, they just sort of gave me a little bit of a title bump and sort of acknowledged a couple of years served and something, a little feather for me and a little reward for me, for sure.
What was that point in time for you while you were serving there as an assistant and an associate that you really felt ready? Obviously, you said you put in for the job when Brad got it, but what was the moment for you where you felt ready to be an ECHL head coach, you would say?
Let's say it's sometime during the year when Brad was the head coach. He started giving me a little bit more freedom, a little bit more leash when it came to what was happening with the team, I started to do a lot of the video presentations. So a lot of the teaching that we did using video, he tended to hand over to me. I put together a lot of the video presentations. Obviously, we worked together on that, and he had a major say in that. But I was doing a lot of the choosing of the clips that we would show the team, and then I would be the one presenting to the team. He obviously had the head coaching duties as well, which Riley can attest to is a lot more than just hockey. So I think that is sort of where I started to feel comfortable with the possibility of getting in front of the team every day and sort of being the man, because it's definitely different. I mean, I think it's one of those things, there's no one to turn to. It's just you. So that was the big adjustment for me. But yeah, I would have to say somewhere in that year with Brad, I felt a little bit more comfortable being the guy to make the decisions.
Let's talk about your connection with Maine here, specifically Portland and the Cross Insurance Arena, and of course, the team that came before us here in Portland, the Portland Pirates. You were the video coach from 2012 to 2015. You are in Maine even before that at Colby College. What do you remember about the Portland Pirates organization? And again, your role a little bit different with them as video coach. And I bet I'm pretty sure for you it's special coming back here now to face the Mariners as head coach of the Thunder.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I mean, I think it's funny because when I arrived in Maine, it was just as an intern. It was almost a spur of the moment thing. It was late in that first season with them that I was actually hired on to be the video intern or video coach. And it's funny because it was the lockout year. So it was a unique season in that a lot of the NHL guys were down with us in Portland. So when I showed up to training camp my first year in Portland, like Dave Tippett was there, Don Maloney was there, all the Jim Playfair, they were all in Portland. And I remember at one point it was a rainy day, and I ended up giving Don Maloney, Brad Treliving, Sean Burke, and Dave Tippett a ride back to the hotel in Portland. And I just remember sitting there thinking, like, I can't believe this is real. It was quite a pinch me moment. It's funny, actually, Dave Tippett was sitting in the middle seat of my Subaru in the back seat, something you don't expect to see from an NHL head coach too often. So that was pretty surreal. But for me, the biggest thing I remember is just there were a lot of passionate fans in Portland. It was my real first experience with minor league hockey. I never had the opportunity to play professionally. I'm from Vermont originally, so the closest we get is UVM. So to get that exposure and to see how passionate people were, I mean, there's a lot of familiar faces when I came back a couple years ago. I mean, there's people that I recognized from my first year in Portland, and just to see the passion of the fans and everybody who just really took a real interest in the team. I think it's much more so than the NHL guys. I think there's just more of a connection at the minor league level. There's more exposure from the players, coaches, staff, everybody. You're just a little bit closer to the team. So that was pretty impressive for me. And then, I mean, I just love the area. I mean, my wife ended up moving down for the last season. We loved it. We ended up coming back over the summer to enjoy the beach. So it was a great time for me. I always learned a ton. Like, it goes without saying, to come from Division III with Colby, had a great year up there with those guys. And then to come down to Portland, it's unfathomable to me how much I learned in that time with the organization. They treated me so well. The city was amazing. I just can't say enough great things about Portland.
Riley,
Alex, were you there for the new locker room or the old locker room when they did the remodel? And what restaurants did you like to hit up here downtown?
I'd have to say both to the first question. So my first year was the last year before the renovations. My second year was our lovely hiatus in Lewiston, and then my last year was the renovated building. So that's sort of my time period there with the team. So there was a year where we ended up in Lewiston for the season, playing our home games up there, and then fortunate enough to catch the new building right when it opened last year. And then for restaurants, to be honest, my first couple years, the salary for a AHL video coach at the time wasn't too high. Unfortunately, I didn't get to a lot of the good ones. When I was there, I actually have more opportunity to do it now. We're fortunate enough to travel in usually the day before a game, so we can get out to a lot of the restaurants now. but there's so many. 4th Street's so good. I mean, there's so many that I can't believe. It's really remarkable how many good restaurants are there. Like I'm gonna leave them. I'm drawing a blank on there's a seafood restaurant right on the water. It's right on the pier there.
Jade's.
No.
I was going to say you really narrowed that one down, Alex.
There's so many good ones. Like, what can you say? Like, you guys know. You guys have been there for a few years. Like, man, there's so many good spots to go that you just don't leave anything out, and it's hard to even like think of them all right now because it's just a great place to go. Like, that was one of the major disappointments of this season, amongst all the other things, was being able to go to all the different cities, Portland especially, and get out for a good meal and enjoy it. So Portland for sure has so many. Scales. Evan Pivnik has jumped on and saved me here. Scales is the one down.
Look at that. Shout out to Piv.
Saving my bacon again. He's good at that. So yeah, Scales is one of the favorites. We've been down there a couple of times. I like seafood. I like fish. So going down there makes a lot of sense. They've got a lot of good stuff. So we've done that a few times.
Piv, I miss sharing a press box with you 100 times a year. That's the one thing that I miss the most about not playing this year. All right. I think we've covered Portland. I believe you answered Sheila's question here. I want to make sure I pulled it up. What do you miss about Portland? Anything else specifically other than the restaurants or something you already mentioned?
The people are great. I mean, there's no question. They're all so passionate. They're all so fun to be around. I mean, I love seeing the fans and even the workers, the penalty box guys. They all came up to say hello. Obviously, the role's quite a bit different. I was way more anonymous. I could in the Pirates days. Now it's a little different being the head coach, so that's a big change for me. But it's just a great spot. I mean, I can't say it enough. Me and my wife, we stayed there in the summers, so we'd go to the beach all the time. We actually lived in Kennebunk the last year for that year, and that was awesome. Like, it's just a great spot to be. I can't say enough things. There's just the way I feel about the city.
Shout out to our off-ice officials as well. We miss them, seeing them every night. They've been around forever, as Alex said, dating back to the Pirates. And even before, many of them were big-time original Mariners fans. So moving on here, one of the big hot topics of late among the fans has been where our players are playing this season. And yesterday, 7 former Mariners were named to the Hartford Wolfpack training camp roster, 2 more to Tucson, and Sean Day as well in Syracuse, as he had signed over the summer with the Tampa Bay Lightning. But Riley, if you want to give an update just off the top of your head, some guys, where they are, how they're doing, and I'm sure the number one thing fans want to know is the prospects of some of them coming back next season.
Yeah, I think with guys coming back next year, I think that's something that we hope that does happen. But we have Alex Kyle down in Florida. I think he is top 5 or 7 in the league in scoring right now, kind of where he took off from last year. We also have Scott Savage in Indy with Michael McNicholas. Savage is wearing an A, just a great leader for us, and he's wearing that with Indy right now. Nate Callan, only saw 3 games of him coming out of college, but he's in Rapid City. And then we have Connor Bleakley, who's down in Allen as well. Just had a big 2-goal night just last weekend. So it's awesome to see the guys having success in other teams right now. I enjoy watching them. I follow along with them. And then we also have Nick Master in the SPHL and also Andrew Romano in the SPHL. And I would tell you about the players we have in Europe, but I can't even pronounce half the names to be on the team. So Marc-Olivier Crevier Moran's over there as well. And Ryan Culkin is over in Europe too. So it's just awesome in a time like this that our players are being able to join other teams, at least play. The main thing about the league that we're in is the development part of making players be able to play in the American Hockey League, expand their careers to Europe, and play hockey for a living. And I think allowing these guys to go over to Europe, join other teams, is just an awesome little feather in their cap of being wanted by other people as well, just as much as we want them back here in Maine.
And if you missed it yesterday, you can read the article up on marinersmain.com. But it was Jeff Taylor, Jake Elmer, Brandon Crawley, Ryan Domowski, Francois Broussard, Ty Ronning, and Adam Huska on the Hartford training camp roster. Connor Lecouve and Chris Nell in Tucson, and as I mentioned, Sean Day in Syracuse with the Tampa Bay Lightning's AHL affiliate. Alex, for the Adirondack fans that may be joining us tonight, and thank you to you guys if you are, do you have an update on where some of the Thunder players are playing this year?
Yeah, so we've got similar to what Riley was saying, we have a handful of guys sort of sprinkled throughout the ECHL. Charlie Curdy's out in Rapid City. Mike Smatula is down in Jacksonville with those guys. Some of the guys we signed over the summer have sort of sprinkled out around as well. So Samuel Burge is down in Allen with Connor there. He's doing really well down there. And a couple of rookies, Nick Rivera down in Wheeling. He actually just signed a PTO with Binghamton to go to their training camp, so I know he's excited about that. A couple of our guys had to stay close to home as well, and we're just waiting for next season. So I know you had mentioned about guys coming back. So guys like Matt Selhaney, Jim MacArthur, Alex Apples, those three guys decided to stay close to home. Alex Carey is another one. Just decided to take the year off, train, and be ready for next year. So we have a bit of a mix of guys doing different things, but I know the guys in the ECHL are doing well. Kept an eye on them. And then we've, like Riley said, a couple guys in the SPHL. It's one of these years where you kind of tell guys to play. We had one guy who was a little reticent to go down to the SPHL. He wasn't sure if that was the right move for him, but he's coming out of college as a rookie single guy. And I said, hey, why not? Just go play. At least games. It beats sitting at home doing nothing, twiddling your thumbs, trying to figure out ways to stay in. You might as well go play games. I mean, it can't hurt. We'll take him back next season, no questions asked, for sure. Anything is going to put him a step ahead of the guys that decided to try to wait and maybe aren't diligent in terms of their training and stuff like that, and they're just going to be a step off when it comes back to coming and playing games in the fall. So I think it's just one of those years you take what you can get and you play games as much as you can. And I think I've encouraged as many of our guys to do that as you can, because like I said, I don't think games are invaluable. Come down to it, you can practice and drills and train all you want, but until you're playing live hockey, it just isn't the same.
Well, and the one advantage that I think both the Mariners and the Thunder have are tremendous cities, tremendous fan bases, facilities, a place that players like playing, and obviously a core of guys that has kind of been established by both organizations at this point, and success hopefully will help in bringing them back. But I think, as you said there, Alex, certainly a difficult situation for players doing their best not to miss a full season of getting on the ice and playing competitive. And that being said, the spots are limited. So, Riles, what advice did you give the guys when it came to trying to find a place to play this year, and obviously a very tough year to do so?
Yeah, I think a lot of guys are almost worried about their resume in the game, and if going to the SPHL is going to hurt my resume, or and for my future down the road. And I think a time like this is almost like the lockout when you saw Scott Gomez playing in the Coast with Dubinsky and a ton of other NHL players, and it doesn't hurt it. I think it helps it, just like Alex said, by getting games and getting that experience. I think that's the biggest thing for a couple of our guys that are playing down there, is we want them back next year. But I think it's going to give them that step up to help their careers too, down the road. So hopefully players can come back to our teams. It's something that I think both of us want. Probably all teams in the North Division want that. So I think something can hopefully get worked out for us.
Well, the next topic I wanted to discuss was both of your guys' ECHL head coaching debut, and it happened to take place on the very same night. And it also happened to be our inaugural game, October 13th, 2018 at the Cross Insurance Arena. I know I'll never forget it, as the Mariners and the Thunder played, and Adirondack ultimately coming away with a 6-3 win. And I've got a little video highlight package here of that game, and don't necessarily want you guys to break anything down specifically. We'll get to that in a minute, but just want to have it playing in the background as you discuss what you remember about this night. Very emotional. I'm sure there were nerves, but I don't want to put words in your guys' mouth. So let's start with you, Alex. What do you remember about this game and your emotions?
For me, I know talking to the team ahead of the game, I was trying not to trip over my own tongue. It was one of those games where one of those situations in life you're going to remember it for the rest of your life. And I remember just trying to get a coherent sentence out so we could at least I didn't look like a complete idiot. So sorry, I'm trying to watch the highlights here a bit. I do remember getting off to a fast start. That's something we did discuss before the game, was just trying to get, like, it's the first time Maine had ever played together, whereas we had the luck and we were fortunate to have a lot of our guys who have played games together before. So it's just a unique situation, obviously, with Maine being a brand new organization in the league. So it's just something we talked about, was just trying to get that quick start. But then something that as well and Maine does well is that you guys call timeouts and come out of those hot. And you guys can have so many comebacks coming out of those timeouts that you guys made it a game in a hurry. So it was quite an experience, something obviously, like I said, that I'll never forget. And I'll let Riley jump in now.
Well, Keels, you mentioned night you'll never forget. I try and forget it, especially at the start. But yeah, I think our guys were nervous. It was a brand new team. First year head coach myself. I think the whole night was a victory for us in the end of it, because we started a franchise from the ground up, had to build a brand new team. A lot of our front office staff members were brand new to the league. They're new to hockey. And I think all that kind of stuff just tied in. It was such an overwhelming experience in for the whole entire thing, and it's dating back to when they announced that we were going to be the Maine Mariners and not the Maine Wild Blueberries, although it's nice. But to us painting the locker room, to getting the TVs hung up, to kind of getting it set up to everything that we wanted, was so cool. It was such an unbelievable experience for myself. I'm pretty sure Danny Briere can totally agree with it. And I think there's big things to come for not only us, the Thunder, but the whole North Division. I think it's a really good division, very competitive each night. Every game's like a playoff game. So I absolutely love playing in front of it. I think right there, that clip, I think fans enjoyed that. I know they got a good rise out of this, that hockey was back in Portland. So something that was that Riley and Bryson Martin there going at it. So, and he gives a little whoop up to the crowd. Yeah.
It almost falls right there.
It was awesome, though. It was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I think, regardless of the result, for Mariners fans, the game kind of had a little bit of everything. So it was your typical high-scoring first game of the year, but it had the fight, as you mentioned. It had, as evidenced by this highlight reel, a lot of scoring chances, and just one of those games that a big crowd, and like you said, the fact that hockey was back in Portland was the big thing, and or in Maine, and one of the things I remember up there, and I don't know if Piv has commented again, but we had some issues getting ECHL TV going on the away side. So I remember that was my point of stress for the evening. But I think Piv was at least able to get his radio broadcast on the air, and there you go, the 6-3 final score, a memorable night no matter which way you slice it. So pretty cool though that you guys have that bond, being making your debut on the same night, and then these two teams end up playing about half the season in 2019-20, and that's a good segue into our tale of the tape between Riley Armstrong and Alex Lowe. And just one game off there. Alex has coached one game more than Riley Armstrong through these first two seasons. The head-to-head record, really a tale of two seasons, guys. Season one, Adirondack had the edge, 6-2-1. Season two, 6-2-1-1. Season two, 12-4-0 in favor of the Mariners. So I think it's fair to say the Thunder had the upper hand in year one, the Mariners in year two. But just as we spoke about with K-Mac last week, Riley, when it comes to playing Adirondack, and you did it a lot, 16 times last year. What are some of the first couple things that come to mind about how the Thunder play?
Yeah, I think they always get off to a quick start. They always come right from puck drop. They do that on the road, and I think where they're dangerous is at home. And whether it's them coming out with the fireworks show that they got, their fans are always loud, and I think it's the sound system at the arena. Like, you could have 3 people in that rink, and it sounds like there's 3,000. And the one period that always scares me with Adirondack is the third. And I think when they come out at home, the fans start this clap thing. They clap with the beat of the drum coming, and it gets quicker. And they always come out with a really hard punch there, right at the start of the third. So I'm always cautious, kind of weather the storm type thing for the first 5 minutes if we can get through. And we have had success in Adirondack scoring first, though. We always come off. Usually in the first 5 minutes we score on the road, but when the Thunder come up here into Maine, they score first for the 5 minutes into the game. So it's definitely a back and forth match. A lot of our games are tight. Keels, you probably know how many games went into overtime last year, shootouts with us. So it's definitely a fun game to coach, and I imagine for fans they're probably fun to watch.
Yeah, I believe it was, I don't actually have it offhand here, but I believe it was 5 or 6. Alex was referencing the back-to-back shootout games right before Christmas break, the games that Joe Murdaka played in up in Glens Falls. And I think to your point, Riles, about the third period being dangerous, when we get to the video breakdown in a little bit, we'll see evidence of that with a lot of late game tying goals again. But Alex, what do you think about when taking on Maine?
For me, it's how dangerous they are. I mean, I think you'll see in some of the goals that Riley showed, and even for me going back through clips in terms of just trying to put some video together for tonight, was that just any little mistake that we made, they do a great job of putting in the back of our net. So we just have to make sure that we're really smart and really doing a good job of managing the puck. They defend well. They really keep the play out of the middle of the ice. It takes a lot for us to get much happening in the middle of the ice. I think all of our 5-on-5 goals were second chance opportunities, looking at definitely last year. So I think it's one of those things where we just have to be patient with the game. We can't force it, because if we make a turnover in the neutral zone, it's going to be in the back of our net in a hurry. So like Riley said, the games are always close. We're always one goal here or there, one bounce here or there is really the difference. And I think it's just one of those things where you have to on point and mentally engaged every shift. You just can't take a shift off. You can't take a game off. It doesn't matter if it's Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday afternoon. It's going to be a tight, hard-working game. And as for us, I know every team in our division, Matt and I spoke about it. We've spoken about it with all the coaches in our division. There's no easy games, and it's just the way it is. Even if a team is struggling on the standings, the games aren't easy. They're always competitive. They're always good. So it's just one of those things where it makes you better, but it also reduces the number of hairs on the top of my head.
Well, one other thing I wanted to bring up about this matchup and ask you guys, playing 16 times head-to-head last year, and believe it or not, there were actually 2 more to come before COVID derailed the season, but 6 times alone in the month of December, including 2 stretches where you played 3 in a row, it felt like a playoff series. Riley, what can you learn from playing another team that many times, often in a short period of time?
Yeah, I think it's mostly for the players. They create, I think that's where you can kind of play the game within the game for the players. And that's getting under a guy's skin. After playing them so many times, hey, I'm going to go say this to this guy, or I'm going to poke him here. He doesn't like that. And you have to walk that fine line as a player and not cross it. There's some times that I think the line is crossed and you have penalties and, you got to have big kills. But I think if you can walk that line, it's going to work out better for us in the end of the game or at the end of like a 3-game series. I do remember going into play against, we're going up to Adirondack, and I think we had 6 or 5 games in hand, and we were trailing by quite a few points. And at that time, I went into the room, and this is in December, and I went into the room, I was like, guys, if we don't come through this month like 500 hockey team, like we're going to be out of the playoffs by Christmas, and it's going to be, and I think that's where we kind of really dialed it in, was through December there, going into that Christmas break, and we pulled off some really close games, shootouts, late game goals, and then we kind of climbed back into the standings going into Christmas break.
What about you, Alex? Just the frequency of playing. It felt like every other weekend we were either coming down there, you were coming to us. That fun, 5.5 hour trip that's not quite long enough to be annoying, but not quite short enough not to be. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think Riley touched on a lot of things. I mean, I think for me for us as coaches, I think you dig into the specialty teams a little bit more. You start to look into that side of the game, both power play and penalty kill. The 5-on-5 is going to be tight. It's going to be a bounce here or there. I think if you probably dig into the stats, the 5-on-5 goals between the two teams have to be pretty close. But I think once you get into power play, penalty kill, I think that's where you can really make a break. You can start to look at tendencies a little bit more, especially when you play a team 3 times in a row. You try to look at little things that you can try to key on when it comes to specialty teams. I think for us, we really stress the power play as a team, as an organization. That's something we take a lot of pride in and try to be pretty successful at, because it's really, you see it every year. The top power play teams are your top teams in the league, and top penalty teams are top teams in the league. And 5-on-5 tends to be a wash a lot. You usually end up pretty even, and if you can be both lead on the power play and smothering on the penalty kill, you can do pretty well for yourself. So for me as a coach, especially when you're playing a handful of games in a row against a team, I really try to key on those special teams, because that can go a long way in coming on the right side of things.
All right, well, we're going to get into the X's and O's here. So while we give Riley a moment to pull his video up, we're going to bring up our trivia question, give the fans a chance to sit on this one a little bit. And we actually have a pair of prizes to give away here, one from each organization. So your challenge is to tell us which player has the most points in the all-time head-to-head series between Maine and Adirondack. We do have a Mariners Moose beanie from the year 1 beanie giveaway available for anyone that can, or the first person that can name the Mariner, which has the most points in the all-time head-to-head series. And if you could tell us the Thunder with the most Thunder player with the most points, we'll have a Adirondack Thunder beanie that I do not have to display with me, but it's a nice beanie. We'll have Alex find a way to get that to you. And a reminder as well, for one lucky fan who shares this live stream on their Facebook with their friends, we will be giving away another prize as well. So hit that share button, hit that like button. And with that, we will move into the portion you have all been waiting for, the X's and O's portion of our show. And we decided to change it up and put the controls in the hands of the coaches. We thought that made more sense. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Riley here for the first batch of clips. If you have questions out there during the presentation, please put them in the comments, and I'll bring them up as they are appropriate. So with that, Riley, what do you got?
Yeah, Keels, is the screen good? How does it look?
The screen looks fantastic.
All right. So this is just the first clip, and it's a big goal. And the reason why I thought it was a big goal is because this is teddy bear toss night, and who doesn't love when it's a very big crowd and they all bring their big fluffy teddy bears for a great cause. And it's always a nerve-wracking night, because you never know. You're always like, oh, I need to score early. We need to get the Bears on the ice. And then what if you don't score? What's going to happen? And as a player, I was a part of a couple of games where we didn't score, and so it puts a lot of pressure on the guys. And kind of once that goal's out of the way, it allows us just to play hockey. So just in this clip right here, it's something that we always stress a lot is grind time. And you see Jake Elmer winning the battle on the wall and then exploding off of the wall to beat his defender into the middle of the ice. So that's where we look to create opportunities to score, try and be dangerous in all those opportunities, and always be moving our feet. And really nice goal here. Nice little celebration by Jake. And then you see the teddy bears come onto the ice I know for a coach in that spot, you always want to duck in behind the glass so the Bears don't hit you in the back of the head. So that's kind of my little hideout. Just like Alex touched on about the specialty teams hitting it with the PK and the PP is the opportunities to kind of force it while you're shorthanded in spots too and take advantage. And we had a really fast team. I thought we had guys that could kind of score in all spots. Sometimes in those spots, you don't necessarily, if a guy doesn't kill, but he's having a good game, you kind of want to throw him in those areas because he might be able to generate something while shorthanded too. So right there with Terrence Wallen rushing down the wing, cutting to the middle, and really playing a 2-on-2 with Ty Ronning coming in. Ty always came in the clutch, scoring some pretty big goals for us in big areas. I threw this clip in. I just want to, run something by Alex and kind of see where he's at. This is that same game. But it's off of an icing. We're tired. You can see Michael McNicholas right here. He's peeled over. He's looking to grab some air. We're trying to delay just as much as they are, I think, to get our wind. And just late right here is where you can see Zabotel talking. They're trying to sort, and then they call a timeout. So, Alex, I was just wondering why on an icing, or if you were trying to figure out what was going on. We obviously can't see the bench there, but what took so long for a timeout to be called?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a debate we always have, is that we're trying to figure out what the best way really to set ourselves up. So in general, as a general rule, I don't like to call a timeout out of an icing, 6-on-5 or late in a game. I just think it just gives the defense an opportunity to catch their breath and really have an opportunity to sort things out. And really, like you could see it here, you guys are all talking on the bench just as much as we are. So we either keep you guys on the ice, trying to make you guys figure out exactly what you're going to do in order to defend, because we want to make sure you're on your heels. In that situation, we waited. We were debating. You could see it. I know your guys had your sticks on the shin guards, but so did ours. So I think at the end of the day, we decided that we needed the break too. We needed the timeout. So we called the timeout. We regrouped. We discussed what the plan was. I know we've spoken about this in the past. I'm not a huge believer in face-off plays, 6-on-5. I think it's more important to get control of the puck and go from there than it is necessarily to try to get the perfect one-timer off of face-off. I mean, you're going to have your best face-off guys out there. I'm going to have my best face-off guy out there. When those sort of things happen, it's generally a 50-50 puck. So your best laid plans aren't going to come through. So it's more about, once you get the puck, what are you going to do with it? Like, win that initial 50-50 battle, get set up, and then have a game plan from there. And for us, we keep it pretty simple. We generally send out a power play plus an extra guy. That way you've got 5 guys, 6 guys that know how to work together. They've worked together in practice. They've worked together in games. So they know exactly what the different patterns are. And I think you'll see a goal here later on where you can see how a power play type setup can set something up for that last second game tying goal that you need. So that's kind of my philosophy there, is that I'm just not a huge believer in setting up the face-off play unless there's less than 10 seconds. If there's less than 10 seconds, then you got to come up with something in order to try to get that clean shot. But like 24 seconds in this instance, you've got plenty of time to win a battle, win a face-off, get set up, and kind of go from there. And I'd rather try to create a better opportunity with full control of the puck than trying to win a face-off clean that 9 times out of 10 is never going to be one clean to begin with.
That right. This clip right here is an overtime, and it's something that we work on a ton in practice. And I know USA Hockey is really big on the small area games, and so that's something that we like to do a lot of, little small area games where the players get a lot of touches. You always have to be moving. So I credit a lot of that to those little practice plays that a lot of guys do. Right here, just always moving, cycling in and out, having a good chance there. Dylan Fox scores a nice goal with a pass from Brandon Crawley. So definitely something. This is a clip that Alex talked about, 6-on-5 here for the Thunder. And they always like to work the cross seam. And I think the longer they go, and we're trying to always be in shot lanes right here. Greg Chase coming out in a shot lane, and you can't just sit back and defend. You got to get out. You got to put pressure on guys. The second you become a goalie as a player, you're sitting back, and that's where teams can start to really wind up, hit the one-timers and things like that. So we always want to come back and try and force guys. So I think the goal that they do score here, and we scored a lot of goals, they scored a lot of goals like this, but always working these cross-seam plays. And I think that's where it comes into when you're a defensive player. Your head has to swivel. You have to be looking over your shoulder, seeing where guys are at, but your stick has to be on the ice as well. Once your stick's on the ice and in the middle of the rink, taking away lanes, it's really hard for passes to get through, whether it can hit off a guy's skate, hit off a guy's stick, and it's not there. But in this case right here, it's a nice slap pass. I think personally that shot right there could be one of the hardest shots to take in hockey on an offside one-time or one-touch type play like that. So, I think it was a really nice goal right there. But I thought the Thunder were always really good at hitting that shot tip play or hitting that back post guy. So definitely something that we always tried to key on late in the game like that.
I got to ask you, Alex. I mean, it seems like no matter what direction the teams are going in, your team is so tough to finish off in a one-goal game in the third period, especially in your building, as Riley was mentioning earlier. That clip is one of many that we've seen of a one-goal lead in the final minute, and you guys find a way to tie it up and force overtime, and that is not an easy thing to do. I mean, if you looked at percentage of when teams pull the goaltender at the end of a game down one, the percentage of the time where they actually get that tying goal, now I'm just guessing here, but I'm guessing that's the percentage is extremely low, probably less than 10% of the time. So what do you attribute to your success to have, in my mind, what's a pretty high percentage of converting those 6-on-5s and getting those clutch goals late in the third?
I mean, for me, I think, to be honest, a lot of experience. I think it goes back to the close of our division, is that we were in a lot of games. So you have experience under pressure like that. In our building, the fans certainly give us lots of momentum. I mean, you'll see it in these games that we're showing here, that they're always close, so you always have the fans engaged. And then I think I had sort of touched on it earlier, was in that situation right there, like that's a pretty common power play setup for us. So it's something we're used to using and used to doing. Like, I know that Mike Mattula there, who scores the goal, makes a great, but he probably had 7 or 8 of those last year from that pass, because we were just used to doing it on the power play. So we just have that confidence from doing it throughout the game and throughout the season, that when you jump in there 6-on-5, that you're kind of almost used to it. You're in that position, so you feel comfortable, you feel confident, and then when the opportunity presents itself, you can score yourself a big goal, and obviously that's a huge point for us there. So I think that's a big part of it. Is I think we try to work on specialty teams and stuff a lot, and I think it comes into play late in games because, like I said, like those 6 guys, 5 of them are on our quote unquote first unit of our power play, so we're just used to working together. So we're used to generating those opportunities to score. We take a lot of pride in that area of our game. We're usually pretty dangerous when it comes to the power play. So I think that's where it kind of comes in, is that you're in a situation where you've been there before. So it's not every 5 or 6 games where you're 6-on-5, you need a goal late, and so you got to kind of come up with something out of nowhere. It's, you get 4 or 5 power plays a game. You have the opportunity to work that kind of situation. Yeah, each team has an extra player, but at the end of the day, it's a man advantage, and you're looking to create those opportunities, create those seams, create those sort of quick 2-on-1s that generate opportunities in those situations. So I think that's really what it comes down to, is just guys being confident in positions they've been put in throughout the season within the same game. Like that same play, I'm sure, happened earlier in the game, and it just had an opportunity to have it happen late in the game to get us a huge point.
All right, now we'll give Alex a chance to get his video ready to go, and while we do, we'll remind you of the trivia question one more time. 2 answers to this one. Which player has the most points in the all-time head-to-head series between Maine and Adirondack? A lot of games, 16 of them last year, not quite as many, 10, in the previous season. But if you can name the all-time leader of the Mariners, you'll win the Mariners Moose Beanie from the Year 1 Beanie giveaway, and we also have an Adirondack Thunder beanie to give away if you can name the Thunder player that has the most points all time. All right, on to the Alex Lowe video clip breakdowns. Alex, take it away.
We're good here, guys. I know Riley has the same thing. We just want to make sure I can't see the stream.
Gotcha.
So we're good to go here.
Gotcha.
Like Riley had talked about, on the road, getting that early goal, you can see the score clock here. It's just about 30 seconds into the game, but this kind of goes to something we talk about a lot as a team, is just trying to be on the right side of the things defensively. So when we talk about defense, a lot of the time it's not just in our defensive zone. It's just whenever we don't have the puck. So when we don't have the puck, you want to get on the right side of the play and make things happen. So here you can see 16 on our team is doing a good job being in the right spot and not allowing an easy play. You can see Terrence Wallen's open for a breakout play. Even your net front D is open for a breakout play as well. But we're in a good spot, so we're able to put some pressure on and turn this puck over. And now when we're looking at it here, we go to high. But another piece we look at is trying to get this, we call him an F3, activated on these point shots, because a lot of times he can get lost, because in most defensive zone situations, that F3 is being covered by a forward. But once that puck goes low to high, now that forward ends up trying to play defense on the defensive of the puck. So there's a little time for this guy to get a little lost. And here we do a great job of getting that puck to the net quickly. And now you can see an opportunity where, in this case, it's Adirondack sneaks out and finds that loose puck and is able to get a big goal there for us. So that's something we talk a lot about offensively, is trying to get lost a little bit in coverage and trying to make things difficult for Maine or whoever we're playing against. That's something we key on quite a bit.
More bad memories for Riley there. 1 minute into the season opener, right, Riles?
Oh yeah, it was definitely a stinger.
There's plenty on the other side. Again, trying to stay on the right side of the puck. So here we talk about a lot, again, especially through the neutral zone, is trying to stay on the correct side of things. So here you can see with Matt Selhany down in the face-off circle here, and then even again with Ara Nazarian coming through in this direction, is we're just trying to stay in between Maine's players and the offensive zone. So in this instance, we're making sure that Matt isn't going this way and staying on the wrong side of Terrence in the middle. And even Ara is doing a good job, again, like I said, on our guy on the wing here. So what that does is it just puts guys in awkward positions where now you're passing a puck backwards as a winger instead of having that opportunity to go forward with it. And now it just creates havoc. We have some good sticks. I know Riley just mentioned it when we talked about that 6-on-5 clip, is having sticks in lanes. And here you can see a good opportunity for us there. We deflect that puck, we get that quick turnover, and now we're going back the other way. And Ara does a nice job of finishing that one off there for us. So again, just some details there that we talk about a lot as a team, is just being on the right side of the puck defensively. And that starts right in the offensive zone. As soon as you don't have it, you've got to figure out exactly where you're supposed to be so we can get it right back. And then on the flip side of that, this is what we talk about with Maine being so dangerous and making sure we're doing the right things. Is here, we're not quite on the right side of things. So we can see it here. We're not really on the right side of things in the middle here. This guy's kind of snuck in behind us. Oops, sorry. This guy's snuck in behind us. And now all you can see is it just takes a little bounce, and we don't do a good job of coming back hard through the middle. And now all of a sudden you get that quick 2-on-1, and it doesn't take much. And if you look at this play here, you could argue that we have some pretty good sticks. But Maine's a good team, and they have dangerous offensive players, and there's not much of a lane there. You can see it there. It just misses our sticks twice, but that's all you need. And you can see Greg Chase does a nice job of finishing that goal off. So, again, it's something we talk about a lot, is you got to make sure you're on the right side of guys, because here you can see a situation where we're not on the right side of it, and now it's in the back of our net in a hurry. And that's, again, where we talk about Maine being that dangerous team that I had spoken about earlier. And then finally, just the last couple of clips, so we talk about face-offs a lot. Here's actually a neutral zone face-off play that we run. This, to be honest, and I know we mentioned it when we talked the other day, is I think this is the first time it's ever worked for us. So this is what we call a thunder play on the offensive zone blue line. So what you'll see here is we end up winning this face-off. It goes D to D. And we're looking for is a carom off the end wall so we can get an opportunity open in front of the net. So here you can see the big key is for us is that D is on the correct side of the middle of the ice. So when he takes the shot off the end wall, it comes back in front of the net, and now our player is ready for it. So most teams are rimming the puck around, so you can see, I think it might be Savage, I can't see exactly who it is expecting the rim. And we're able to jump in front of it there, create one gut opportunity, and this is what I'm talking about. We had to create all of our offense on second chance opportunities a lot, 5-on-5, because Maine's goalies are good. You're not going to score a lot of first shot goals, so now it's up to you to figure out a way to get that next opportunity. So we do a good job of digging for it. We get a bit lucky there, a nice hand-eye, and we find a way to poke that puck in the net. But there you can see how we're looking to create offense off of a face-off. And similar situation here, late in the game, down low goal. we've been trying to figure out a way to generate a little bit. So this is where you tend to activate your D a little bit more, is you're trying to find ways to generate offense. So here we do a good job. We win a face-off. The D comes down the wall here. Here in this instance, we're trying to figure out ways to get pucks to the net. Again, it's a bit fortunate. It goes off main skate. I think that's Dylan Fox in the middle there. It goes right to our guy, Nikita Papagayev. But again, we're finding ways to get to the net. We're getting lost. We're getting opportunities to try to get pucks through. Something Maine does a great job is blocking shots. There's no question. You can see both guys selling out there to block a shot. Again, it's a bit of a lucky bounce, but I think for us, we talk a lot about putting yourself in the right position to get lucky bounces. So here's one of them. We end up getting the puck to the net. Good stick there from Robbie Payne. We end up getting that late goal that we had just discussed, a big goal for us there. So for us, we're trying to generate a little bit of offense off some face-offs there, and just trying to find a way to get goals. But I think you can see it, and I think all those clips, it's all one-goal games. So you can see how it doesn't take much for us to be in a close game, and that point can go either way in a hurry. So I think for us, it's just a lot about talking about details, making sure we're putting ourselves in good positions to score goals and create offense for ourselves. So I know it's always challenging against Maine. Like I said, just there, you could see all the guys trying to block shots. So you just have to be persistent and patient and try to figure out a way to not make a mistake and still try to find a way to create offense. So just a couple of things we talk about when it comes to facing Maine or even facing every team. I think that's part of it. I think we just are trying to figure out ways to end up on the other side of that bounce, because we've all seen it. It's one bounce here or there, and if you end up on the wrong side of it, you're all of a sudden lost a couple of points, and it's hard to get back into the playoff race. I know Riley talked about it. He did a great job in December, but you can also talk about how it's really hard to do that, and that's not a position you want to put yourself in a lot. So,
and there could have been. I'm sorry, Alex. Go ahead, finish your point.
No, I'm good.
There could have been about 100 more. We could have had a 3-hour show of video clips between these two teams from last year alone, with how many times we played and how many close games. So appreciate you guys putting that together. Hope the fans found that informative. And Alex, we do have a question from Andrew Hart here for you. And much like Sam's question last week, a very detailed X's and O's oriented question here. Notice your forwards play a high pressure forecheck, which seems to make it difficult for opponents to make the break out of the zone. Do you ever worry that having two guys up, I think that means to say will limit you if opponents can get past you and are approaching your zone?
I mean, yeah, we definitely want to put pressure. I think it's pretty obvious these days when it comes to the way the game's played is if you can get out of your zone cleanly, you're going to do. So it's pretty imperative to get as much pressure on the team trying to break a puck out as fast as much as possible, because that's a good way to create a lot of offense. If teams are getting out of their zone easily, obviously it goes without saying that it's going to be tough to play. But in that instance, we talk a lot about reloading. I think in those couple of clips, you could see that we would get our guys up the ice and pressuring, but we'd always make sure that we're in front of our D when it comes to tracking back into our zone. And we talk a lot about having a good third forward who never sort of dives into the play. So you never see his toes facing Maine's end. You always want his toes, his skates facing our net, because that way he's always in a position to get back in the play and disrupt a rush, because you need to have at least three guys defending. You can defend a 4-on-3 rush. It's hard to generate some offense there if guys are doing the right things. Obviously, the less players you have involved, the harder it's going to be to defend. We're always trying to make sure that we have numbers back so those rushes aren't as dangerous as they could be.
Thanks to Andrew for that question. We appreciate it. And as we reach the end of the show here, a reminder to get your questions or comments in. Just leave them on Facebook. We'll get to them. I did want to mention as well, Riley did promise on Twitter that he would be giving a stick away. So we do not have any correct answers. There's been a few guesses. There have been no correct answers to the trivia question, but we're going to have an even more difficult trivia question for the stick. So if anyone can name which player took the final penalty in the 2019-20 season series between Adirondack and Maine before COVID ended the season and robbed us of 2 games between these two teams, which player took the final penalty? If you can name it, then we will get you that Riley Armstrong stick. And the other question, of course, the leading scores in the all-time series, one aside. Well, guys, we're going to go a little bit over the hour again, but I think it's worth talking about the NHL here. We started the show talking about how there's games to watch every night, but there have been some big-time storylines. And the biggest one and it's very much related to coaching. So I wanted to get your guys' takes on it. Is this Pierre-Luc Dubois situation with John Tortorella in Columbus? He finally was traded to Winnipeg the other day, but it was obviously making a lot of storylines throughout the hockey world, notably that shift he had the other night. I guess you'd call it a lackadaisical shift that Pierre-Luc Dubois had, and then his night was done. He did not play again the rest of the night, and it caused quite a controversy. Of course, John Tortorella, his coach there, is a reputation, but also a very successful coach throughout his career. I just want to get your guys' takes from the coaching perspective. I'm sure you guys are maybe a little biased towards the coaching side in this little back and forth, but just your general takes on the situation, how you think you would handle it if you were John Tortorella in that spot, and how everything kind of played out in the end. Riley, we'll start with you.
I don't know the whole background to it or what happened in the previous year going into this year. Obviously, I believe he asked for a trade. They had to get him signed prior to trading him. I don't think right now, with the salary cap in the NHL probably not moving over the next couple of years, and the money that he signed for, probably wasn't just an easy trade, with how tight teams are to the cap, and probably looking forward into the future on where they're sitting with the cap. I think he makes $5 million a year. So it's not, something you're just you can make a quick little trade. So there's probably some pieces that went into it on the backside too, that had to get done. I definitely think that was the final straw with the shift that went out there. But I can tell you from when I played, and I was a grocery stick maybe for a couple of nights, and my coach would throw me out on the ice after they made it, 7-5 empty net goal, and I have to go out there and play against Trevor Gillies in the final 10 seconds. My shift was probably just as close to Pierre-Luc Dubois' shift there. So, but I think for the player, no matter what, you got to go out there for your team, and you have to compete, and you have to try. I can't say he wasn't trying. Maybe he was. I have no clue, but I still think you got to go out there, and you have to go to battle. I think it's what represents you and gives you respect around the league is how you play during any given time or any given circumstances that your team or that you personally are in.
Alex, what was your take on the situation?
Yeah, I think Tortorella probably handled it the right way. You've got a guy that doesn't seem to be real interested in playing for Columbus at the time, so you kind of take it as a game-by-game situation. If he's going to go out there and work hard like he said he was going to and help your team win, then you play him. And if he's not going to do that for you, then you don't. And I think it shows the difference between the jobs at the NHL level. As a head coach in the NHL, your job is to win the game in front of you. As a GM, you're trying to win as many games this year, but you also have to not have an eye on the future. And I think you can see how Kekalainen had to sort of balance the needs of the team now, but also not give away an asset like Dubois. He's at the end of the day, he's a really good player. So you can't just pay him for $1 and just be rid of the problems, because you end up shooting yourself in the foot when it comes to the future seasons. Whereas Tortorella, he's looking at it like, this guy's not helping me win my game here tonight, so he can ride the rest of the game, and we'll figure it out later. But I think that's just sort of the difference between the two jobs when it comes to the tip of the spear at the NHL levels, is that GM has a very different responsibility than the coach does. They have to work together to a common goal, which is winning the Stanley Cup. But I think you can see in that situation how both guys have to look at it in a different lens. And Tortorella has a reputation. He's not easy to play for. Guys either love it or hate it. You guys that love it would go through a wall for him. The guys that hate it ask for trades. And there's not a lot of in between. So I think it just ended up with a situation where a guy looked like he wasn't trying to help them win that game that night, and you sit him on the bench, and that's just the way it is. And then they end up doing a great job. You get a guy like Line and Roslovic in return, like that's pretty good. Like, at the end of the day, you're not too upset about how that ended up playing out. That could have gone a lot of different ways. Like if you're an opposing GM, you're looking at a situation where the guy or a team with a really good player that doesn't want to be there, you're probably going to try to hold that GM to the fire a little bit. And Carolina did a good job of getting some really good players out of that situation. So you got to tip your hat to him. And then if I'm in Tortorella's shoes, I'm doing the same thing. I put him out there. If he's going to help me win and he's going to play to his full ability and compete and score goals and do what he can do, then you play him every second shift. But if he's going to go out there and not compete and not help you win, then you do what you did.
We'll see how things play out with Dubois in Winnipeg now, and how that will. Sure, there will be a lot of hot takes the rest of the season on
what's going to be interesting. A more interesting one.
Yeah, very much will be. Well, a couple more things in the NHL, and then we'll call it a night here. You guys have been able to watch a lot of games through the first 2 weeks, and Riles, as you and I and K-Mac talked about last week, a lot of different wrinkles to the season with the back-to-back formats, playing teams in series, almost like baseball. Just playing the same team so many times, and of course the different division alignments. And I am going to ask you guys divisional picks in just a moment, but not yet. What has surprised you the first 2 weeks of the NHL season, Riley?
Well, I think a lot of NHL teams are not used to playing 3 times against the same team back to back to back. I also think that you notice the teams that have 2 really good Vegas, Montreal went out and got Jake Allen to be behind Carey Price. And when you're playing such tight games, you can have Leonard then Fleury or Price then Allen going back to back like that. Every night you're having a chance to win. I think the one other thing is how teams are really pushing for that opening night. You want to get that 2 points that first game. And then you notice in the second game, the team that lost, they're coming out with even more fire, passion. You see the hitting pick up because now they're going for the split while the other team is trying to grab another 4 points since you're playing so tight. So I definitely think 100% so far the North Division with all the Canadian teams, it's definitely run and gun. Like you got some good skill. You got really young teams up in Canada. Watching those games, I know it keeps me up to about 1:30 in the morning, but at the same time, you're watching some pretty good hockey.
Alex, anything that's jumped out and surprised you?
I mean, I think Riley touched on it there. The start is so important. So you're seeing a lot of intensity and a lot of the plays ramped up pretty quickly. I mean, I think even in a normal season, you see it like the standings at Thanksgiving, they don't change a whole lot by the time the season's over. I mean, I can remember our first year and my first year with Kale, the first year of our organization, we ended up starting off, I think, 10-0, and we ended up going 500 the rest of the year and won our division. So I think that start of the season is so important. In a condensed schedule like this, you can see how it's even more important this year is that teams have to win now because there's not an opportunity to make these games up later, especially when you're playing the same team over and over again. There's just not that chance to pick up 6, 7, 8 points. You can't do it. You can't do it in a normal year. You really can't do it this year. So I think that's the biggest thing is the intensity's been there right away. It takes a couple of games to get the defensive side of things squared away, but I think you can see how teams are just ready to go. And then Riley is 100% correct. The 2 goaltenders is pivotal this year. You're just not gonna do it if you don't have 2 guys that can win games for you. It's just the end of the day. That's what it is. I mean, a good quote I heard from Ray Edwards, our old head coach in Portland, was that a coach is only as good as his goaltending. At the end of the day, like if you've got a guy back there that can win you hockey games, you're going to look pretty good as a coach. If you have a couple of guys that might be struggling a little bit, it's going to get ugly in a hurry. So I think that's the biggest thing is that just teams are winning with good goaltending, and that's just going to carry itself throughout the year.
Our conversation has come full circle as we started talking about the goalies, and here they are, important again as we wrap up the NHL discussion. So now I'm going to put you guys on the spot. I have helped you out by putting up the divisions on the screen so you don't have to memorize them all. But if you had to choose division winners on the record here, and then we can come back the end of the season, see how well we did. Give me your 4 divisional winners. We'll stay with that. We won't go Cup champions just yet. But Riley, North, West, Central, East. Give me your division winners.
I'm taking Montreal, out of the north. I got Vegas coming out of the west. I got Dallas coming out of the central. I know they got hit by the COVID bug. I think they might have to play I think it's like 50 games in 102 days. I think I saw a little stat on that. So I hope Joe Pavelski's legs can keep up here in that short span. And then I'm going to go with the Flyers. I think Carter Hart's going to rebound here. I like the frustration he took out on that goal post the other night and twirled his stick around it a couple times. I think he's going to actually rebound the following night. He's a leader in the locker room, and I think the Flyers are going to come out top on the East.
Alex, what do you think?
I'll agree with Riley there on the north. I think Montreal looks really good right now, so I'll agree with them there. I think Colorado is going to be my team coming out of the west. They look so dangerous. I think McKinnon is arguably the best player in the league. He's so much fun to watch coming out of the west there. Looking at the central, that's a bit more of a coin flip for me. I got to take Tampa Bay. I think that experience of just knowing how to win hockey games. I know they're missing some players. Like obviously losing draw for the year is going to have a rather big influence on your team, but they just know how to win hockey games, and I think that's just part of the deal this year. So I think they're pretty good coming out of the central there. The East, another tough call. I mean, I think Philly is the right call there as well. I mean, I think it's a deep hockey team, veteran team. They know how to win hockey games, and I think it's just one of those years where I think they're going to come through. I'm not sure if they make it all the way to the Cup, but I think they're the ones that come out of that division there.
Lots of classic rivalries reignited, lots of new rivalries created. It should continue to be a very interesting 2021 NHL season. And I think, Alex, you said it perfectly, where you can't fall in too deep of a hole, or else you're going to find yourself in a spot where you cannot come back. Well, we do have a winner for Riley Armstrong's stick, and it's Andrew Hart again. Andrew selecting Greg Chase, who took a 10-minute misconduct at the 20-minute mark of the third period. So can't take it any later than that in the game. On February 22nd, the final game of the head-to-head in 2019-2020. We have not yet gotten winners for the all-time scores in the head-to-head, so we'll give it a few more minutes here if anyone wants to get their guesses in. But congratulations to Andrew on winning the Riley Armstrong stick. Riley, do you have any more information on the stick, what type of stick it is, when you used it? Is it autographed, etc.?
No. I don't know if my autograph's even worth anything, to be honest. But one thing I wanted to do was give a shout out to all the Thunder fans. I love coming to the city. I love the Queensberry. The people over there, they give me the same room every single night that we come into town. I kind of felt like we were living there for a little bit. We were spending so much time there. I was paying rent, I think, at the Queensberry, and then just to the boys at the bullpen and the Mikado steakhouse over there too. I always went there for my spots coming out of the Queensberry. So Keels, you joined me a couple times over there. It was awesome. Just nice people. I actually really love going up there to Glen Falls and seeing everyone there. And they always throw me a couple burgers and fries too before games up at the concessions too at the Cool Arena. So yeah,
the networking never ends for Riley Armstrong. Riley, I want you to give a quick sales pitch for our virtual event coming up here. Tips on Reaching College and Pro Hockey will be on February 17th on Zoom with Riley, Danny Briere, and Terrence Wallen. Giving tips on how to advance your hockey careers. Just $19. You get the Zoom call with all three of them, plus a ticket to a 21-22 Mariners home game. So great value there. But Riley, if you want to give a little teaser of some of the things you might be talking about there, and fans, you can head over to marinersofmaine.com to register.
Yeah, it's going to be breaking off into classrooms where you'll have the chance to talk to one of us and ask questions. Pretty much we all took different paths to where we're going and where we're at. So I think that's what we're going to just chat with young kids playing or families, see if parents, I know probably a lot of parents have a ton of questions, whether it's college hockey, going up to Canada and playing major junior. So, there's so many different routes that a player takes to, go after their final goal of playing at the highest possible. So I think we're going to touch on that. And I at the end, we'll all come into one group. You're feel free to ask questions. And heck, when you have an opportunity to talk to Danny Briere, I think that $19 is on the low end, I think. But hey, I think it's going to be a great event. Just for it doesn't have to be people in Maine; it can be people from outside of Maine as well. So, looking for a good turnout.
Again, that'll be February 17th at 8 p.m. on Zoom. And again, if you want to register, marinersofmaine.com, right on our homepage on the right side, you will see the graphic there to register for our virtual event, Advancing Your Career, Tips on Reaching College and Pro Hockey. We do have a winner of the Moose Beanie, James Kluke, identifying Michael McNicholas, who has 25 points so far in the all-time head-to-head series between the Mariners and the Thunder. So, James, you will be getting this Mariners Moose Beanie. Congratulations. We did not have a winner of the Thunder Beanie, but the answer was Mike Smatula, who scored that late game tying goal featured in Riley's video reel. 22 points for Mike Smatula in the all-time head-to-head series. But thanks to everybody for submitting your guesses and comments throughout the night. And at an hour and 16 minutes, I think we'll call it a night here, guys. Lots of great discussion. Had a lot of fun. Some other topics I'm sure we didn't even get to, but still a ways to go before October. So we'll have to do this again. Thanks for being here, Alex. We appreciate your insight. Thanks for putting those clips together. We miss seeing you 100 times a year, like I said earlier, and definitely look forward to when these teams meet again next year.
No, happy to do it, guys. Thanks for having me. It was great to be able to jump on and talk a little hockey. It's been a while, so certainly appreciate it. Thanks to all the fans that took the time out tonight to join us and ask some great questions. Hopefully we could give you a little peek behind the scenes on kind of what we're thinking here as coaches. And again, can't wait to get back to it in October. Hope everybody stays safe and healthy, and we get to that point, and it'll come sooner rather than later.
And we will do it again in 2 weeks with the next edition of X's and O's. Mark your calendar, Tuesday, February 9th at 7 o'clock right here on Facebook Live. But until then, for Riley Armstrong and Alex Lowe, Michael Keeley signing off. Have a good night, everybody, and thanks again for joining us.